This is Turd Flinging Monkey for TFM News, reading another article from Shedding of the Ego, link in the description. One of the byproducts of being the unfortunate leader helming a society on the brink of collapse is that the true solutions are simply not available. Such is the fate of Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, who is watching his society collapse both economically and demographically. The men have walked away, sick of their corporate and gynocentric exploitation. Japan needs women to have more babies, but now also needs women to enter the workforce in order to support the economy, an impossible balancing act. To demonstrate the futility of this approach, according to the New York Times, the Prime Minister has proposed more state-funded childcare. However, one of the main reasons their economy is in peril is because their current welfare programs are overburdened. Expanding welfare programs in order to get more women into the workforce will negate any gains and leave them back where they started, if not worse off. There is also a direct inverse relationship between the female labor participation rate and the fertility rate. It's simply common sense that a woman must choose between having a large family or a career. Japan needs its women to have large families, but it also needs its women to pick up the corporate slack from the herbivore men that have walked away. Well, Japan, pick one. Do you want women to have lots of kids, or do you want them to work 60-hour work weeks? Those choices are mutually exclusive. Regardless of which option Japan chooses, the country will collapse either economically, demographically, or both. Let's put aside the proposals in the article related to the pay gap and gender quotas, and talk about the other proposed solutions which the Prime Minister presented to fix the Japanese economy and why they will make the problem worse. Extending unpaid maternity leave for up to 3 years. I recently made a video about this sort of thing called When Gynocentric Laws Backfire. Essentially, my message was that companies are not bottomless ATMs for the government to make withdrawals from whenever they need more money. If the government forces companies to give women 3 years of leave, they won't hire women. And if they're forced to hire women, they won't promote them or put them into leadership positions. If they're forced to put them into higher positions, they'll be forced to create backup assistant positions, which will be expected to step up when the woman inevitably leaves. All of this equals lower profits, less productivity, and higher prices. This hurts the Japanese economy and will exacerbate the economic collapse of Japan. Create 400,000 new spaces in government-sponsored nursery school. This sounds good in theory, but 400,000 new spaces in a daycare aren't going to be free. If you use the cost of preschool in Michigan as an estimate, a single child costs over $10,000 per year. If we extrapolate 400,000 spaces by $10,000 each, we come up with a cost estimate of $4 billion a year. Where is Japan going to get $4 billion each year? By raising taxes, which makes everything more expensive, lowers productivity, and exacerbates the economic collapse of Japan. Loosen immigration restrictions that have limited foreign nannies and housekeepers. In 100 years, the United States will be an extension of South America, and Europe will be an extension of the Middle East. These are the dying gasps of a gynocentric society giving way to a more patriarchal one. In ancient times, societies built walls and defenses to hold the barbarians at bay, but in modern times, the barbarians are invited in to be the lower-class laborers and nannies to the collapsing gynocracy. Either way, Japan as we know it today will cease to exist. Change tax rules to favor families with 2 incomes. Again, this goes into the same category as the expanded nursery spaces. When the government spends money, it must take that money from productive earners via taxes. When the government cuts taxes, it must either cut spending, or it must raise taxes elsewhere to maintain current spending levels. Since Mr. Abe isn't mentioning cutting spending, it's safe to assume that the Japanese government will either raise taxes elsewhere, exacerbating the economic collapse, or simply go into debt, which will exacerbate the collapse even more because they'll be paying interest as well. So the government is in quite a predicament. In order to facilitate women to work more and benefit the economy, it will have to raise taxes and hurt the economy. In addition to the economic costs, women with careers will not be having large families, which exacerbates Japan's demographic crisis. Is there an actual solution? Of course there is. The answer is men. Instead of pandering to women who don't have the power to save Japan, the government needs to turn its attention to serving the demographic that built Japan in the first place. Much has been made about the herbivore men regarding how they are less aggressive and more passive towards women, but it extends into the corporate world as well. According to the Washington Post, herbivore men are rejecting the 70-hour work weeks and are unwilling to sacrifice their lives for companies. Women under 30 are out-earning their male counterparts, but women still expect a man to earn more than the woman in order to support a family. Japan is learning the hard way that gender equality is a farce that leads only to societal collapse. The MGTOW understand this better than anyone, and the solutions are simple, but not easy. In short, Japan must focus on men's needs, But consider that women are 51.4% of the population of Japan, while men are only 48.6% of the population, meaning that Japan faces the same problem as most Western countries, which is that women will not give up their privileges in a democratic society wherein they are the voting majority. Even in the face of annihilation, women will not concede to any reforms until it is far too late, if at all. The herbivore man phenomenon is primarily an economic manifestation. The generation that would become known as the herbivore men started in the 90s during Japan's decade-long recession. 70% of herbivore men in Japan are unemployed or not fully employed. The solution is quite simple. Japan needs to drastically cut welfare programs, privatize, cut taxes, and allow the market to create some fucking jobs for these men. Japan has unfortunately mirrored the United States in terms of welfare and feminist policies, and this example should be a wake-up call to the rest of the Western world. Unfortunately, the welfare state isn't going anywhere because not only is 51% of the population female, but over a third of the Japanese population is over 60 and will not allow their benefits to be cut regardless of the long-term consequences. Like I said in the beginning, one of the byproducts of being the unfortunate leader helming a society on the brink of collapse is that the true solutions are simply not available. Domo arigato, Japan. Sayonara. This is Turd Flinging Monkey for TFM News signing off.